So at this point, you've completed all the pen drawing tutorials, in addition to the Pathfinder tutorials, in order to draw your shapes out and make the shapes to where if you have shapes that are right next to one another, they are still independent from one another, that they're not individual lines that are sharing lines with another shape. So as you can see here, if I highlight this one shape here, next to it, I have another shape that's independent, though they do have a border which creates a line that they share, but they're still independent of one another. Now, some of you may have outlines on your shapes along with the fills for when you did the Pathfinder tool in order to make these independent shapes. What we're going to do, in case you have that, we're going to go ahead and just select everything by clicking on the left corner with your mouse and holding and dragging your mouse and releasing. We're going to put no stroke on these. So we're going to go to the left-hand panel of our toolbar where our stroke is at, and we're going to hit the strike through button that says none. And now we'll have no outline to any of these shapes. We're going to do that because we don't want our shapes outlined for this particular pattern. Your pattern, you may want some outlines, but be very careful about where you have your border here, that when you copy and paste your pattern, when you ultimately do that, that you still have a match on all sides of it that is correct. If you do put a line there around your entire shape, you will have a line on the outside border also. So just keep that in mind. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look at our swatches and get our colors from our painting. So we're ready to use our actual colors from our painting. There's going to be two ways of doing this. Currently I'm working in Illustrator 5. You may be working in Illustrator 6. When I say 5 or 6, I mean CS5 or CS6. You could also be working in the Creative Cloud. So I'm going to show you a couple ways of doing this depending on what program you're using. First of all, we'll need to make sure we have our artwork already scanned and saved as a JPEG at 150 or 300 dpi. We have already done that, so we're going to go ahead and import that and place it in our file. So we're going to go to File, Place, we're going to choose our artwork, click Place, and our artwork is now on our art board in Illustrator. We want to move this away from our composition, so we're going to click on the item. As long as we're in the selection tool, we can click and drag. And now we can get that away from our artboard. We also want to put it on its own layer. So we're going to open up our Layers tab on the right-hand side, or go to Window up at the top to open your Layers tab. We'll open that up, and we're going to create a new layer, either from the drop-down bar here, or at the bottom, where we have a new Create New Layer tab. Make sure you're not creating a new sub-layer, which is right next to it. We do not want that. So we want to create a new layer. Then we want to drag that layer by clicking and holding to the bottom of our layer stack. There's no reason we should have it on top at all, so if anything, we're just going to drag this new layer to the bottom. But we're going to have this, our artwork on this image. So we're going to click this, double click to rename this, and we're going to name it Artwork. Now, our item isn't on that layer yet, because when we brought it in, it was on a different one. So we're going to click a different layer and just see where that artwork is at by clicking on it. So it actually is on layer 1. You can tell by how it's highlighted with the color blue that it is on layer 1 from the color blue. We want it on the artwork layer though. So we're going to click our artwork layer while we have this selected. Then we're going to right click, go to Arrange, Send to Current Layer. You'll now see the highlight of the selected image change to the neon green. So now we know that it is on our artwork layer. So next, we're going to extract the colors from this. So in Illustrator CS5 and CS6 in the cloud, you'll be able to select your object, which is your artwork. Then at the top of your screen, you'll see Embed, Edit Original, Live Trace, a down arrow, Mask. Well, we want to click that down arrow. We want to go to Tracing Options. Now, it's very important that you look at the mode on your tracing options. You want to be in color, not black and white, but color, because we want to get color swatches from this. Now, you can get several different color swatches, or you can get hundreds of color swatches. So in this particular version of Illustrator, we can, right now the default max colors is 6. But if we click this arrow to the right, we'll get a little bar here that we can click and hold the arrow on and get up to 256 colors. Now that's quite a bit. For what we're going to be using for this artwork, we don't need that many. So we're going to simplify things down. We're going to go for 25, which you can also type in to there. We're going to type in 25 colors that we want to choose from. Okay, so we have the color mode. We have the number of colors for the swatches that we want. And then we can hit trace, or before we do that, we can click this output to swatches. If we click that and then click trace, the actual item, the actual image will be traced and swatches will be outputted for it. So we need to open up our swatch panel. If you don't have it open, go to the right hand side here and you'll see all of a sudden there's this whole selection of swatches here. And you can see they look very similar to my image. Okay? If you don't have your swatch menu open, go up to the top of your screen, go to Window, and then you go to Swatches to open that. Okay? But you can see it outputted a ton of colors, 25, it should be 25 colors for us to choose from for our color palette. Now, we're going to undo this because we want to look at the other way in which you can do this. So I'm just going to hit Control Z or Command Z, depending on if you're on a PC or Mac. And I'm going to undo that. So you see our swatches disappeared. So we want to go back and trace our image again, but we're not going to click that button that we clicked to output to swatches. So we'll go up again to our top bar, and our image is selected. At our top bar, hit the down arrow, go to Tracing Options, make sure we're in color mode. We'll do 25 colors again, but we are not going to click output swatches. So a lot of you may not have this option if you're in Illustrator CS6 or the cloud. So if you're in one of those and you don't have this, this is the way you're going to do it. So you'll get a screen similar to this, but you want to make sure you're in color and give the number of colors that you want. Then you'll click Trace. And you'll give it a moment and it'll trace it. And it'll simplify the actual image. Okay? So it simplified the image, but it didn't give us any swatches because we didn't have that section clicked when we did our image trace to find the swatches. So because we didn't have that box checked, what we'll need to do is go to our swatch menu, and there is a button here to add new color group. We will use that, but before we click that, we want to go to Object, Expand. And then you'll see on Expand, it'll ask if you want to expand the object and the fill. We want to have that both done. So we're going to click OK. And now it's going to give us colors to choose from. So what you're going to do now is you're going to go back over to your swatch menu and you're going to go to this new color group that we were going to click. We're going to click it now. And then here we're going to name it. So we'll name it Artwork Swatches. You want to make sure that the selected artwork button is filled in. So make sure you have that filled in and that the box below include swatches for tints is checked also. Click OK. And now you'll see that we have a folder with our 25 swatches available to us. Okay? So from there, all you'll need to do is choose some of your shapes by selecting them or your lines. Select one. Go over to the eyedropper tool on the left-hand side of your screen on the toolbar. Click that tool. Go over to one of your colors. Select that color. And it should fill. Now right now it didn't fill because if we look over at our swatch and fill on the left-hand side of our toolbar, you'll see it actually filled the stroke. And we don't want the stroke filled. So we're going to use this little swap arrow here and click that. And now you can see it actually is filled with that color. But we don't want an outline, so again, we're going to click the strike through for that so that we don't have an outline. Another way without using the eyedropper, which you may not need at all, is just to go back to your regular selection tool, clicking that tool or clicking V on your keyboard and select one of the objects. Then just go directly over to your swatch, which one you want to choose. We'll choose the yellow one this time and click it. Again, it shows the outline. So we'll go over here and we can see that our outline is now our yellow. We're going to switch it again, and then we don't want a pink outline, so we're going to strike through that. So let's try this one more time, and I can tell you why this is happening. So if we click on another object, another shape, right, and we look back over at our left toolbar where the swatch and fill are, you will see that the stroke is on top. We need to put the fill on top. So I double click that and this opened, which we don't want. We'll hit cancel. So just click it once in order to put it on top. Now, this will automatically add a color to the fill and not to the outline, because this is the active one we're using. Before we had the stroke activated to use, so when we actually chose our color, it filled the stroke. So now we have the fill activated, so automatically when we come over, we have our another object selected, we come over to our swatches, we should be able to click on any color here and it automatically fill the object. So if you're having that issue to where the outline is getting the color that you want, check your stroke and fill on the left-hand side of your screen to make sure that the fill is actually active. And vice versa, if you want an outline, make sure that the stroke is active for the swatch color that you're trying to put down on your actual artboard. So if you go through your artwork that you've made and you just click an object and go over to your colors, you can choose any one. So it'll help you a lot that you all have already done a color palette for your composition. So you have an idea of what you want to wear, right? So use that to lead you in your decisions of where to place color and where you want color at. But you can go through and change to any color you want using your swatches made from your artwork. Okay? So we're done with this tutorial for now. When you're done with your artwork, you can select it and you should be able to just delete it and your swatches are still there. Okay? So you're not going to need your artwork on your page at all for any reason. If for some reason you want to keep it, we'll hit Command-Z or Control-Z. We'll select off of the artwork, select back on it, so everything's going to move at the same time. You can move it off your artboard, so off the white page itself, and lay it somewhere else, and then it won't print at all. Okay? But if you don't want it, you can also just delete it, because we really don't need it on our page anymore since we have our swatches. Again, to open your swatches, go to your toolbar on the right, or go to Window for your swatches.